Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We wanted to give just a minute or two to make sure everybody has the chance to get online here. My name is Sarah Hawkins, and I am this funeral celebrant and the creative memorial planner here at Cardinal Funeral Homes. We're so delighted that you're here. Welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. You are in for a treat as we have some great information on pre-planning funerals ready for you in our presentation today. Looks like we're just waiting for a couple more people, but while we're waiting, I did just want to go through some housekeeping issues or housekeeping things for our Zoom. You'll notice that hopefully you can see me and you can hear me. You'll be able to hear Catherine in a moment too, my colleague. We cannot, however, see or hear you. Your microphones and videos, you'll notice, are turned off. However, we do encourage you to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen if you do have questions that come up during the presentation. And I know a couple of you have submitted your questions when you registered with us today or in the last couple of weeks. So we'll do our best to get to as many of the questions as we can at the end of our webinar. If you hit the polls, you can actually hit that right now. And we have a question for you, just really curious about how you found out about us today. And if you could let us know if it was perhaps a conversation with Catherine, or perhaps you saw us on Facebook. We're really curious about how you came to find out about our webinar here today. This is also being recorded. So a copy of this recording is going to be up within the next few days on our funeral home website, cardinalfuneralhomes.com. So if you find this information helpful that you're going to learn today, if you know somebody who may benefit from it, you can feel free to forward the website to us, and we will, and it'll be up there, like I say, in the next few days. What else? We have a gift card. Hopefully, if you saw us on Facebook, you noticed that we wanted to thank you for being here. And so we are going to do a draw at the end for anybody who's with us at the end of this webinar. We're going to raffle off a gift card, $50 to Shoppers Drug Mart. And if you are the lucky winner, you can send me your address, your home address, and I'll mail that off to you as well. If we want to make this a little bit interactive, so you'll see there's also a raise hand button. If you hit that at the appropriate time when we ask questions, we'd really be curious to see just if you want to raise your hand, and then you can also hit it again to lower your hand after a couple of moments of doing that. I think that's all of the housekeeping that we have for now. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Catherine, our pre-need planner here, who's going to give you some great information for pre-planning your funeral. Take it away, Catherine.
Thank you, Sarah. Again, we are so grateful that you've made some time to spend with us this afternoon. Whether you're considering pre-planning for yourself or for a loved one, you've come to the right place today. My name is Catherine, and I am the pre-need and extended family care counselor within Cardinal Funeral Homes. I am a licensed pre-planner, and I've been at Cardinal since 2003. My main responsibility is to guide and assist families to pre-arrange their funeral services. I'm also responsible for sorry, one second. Sorry about that. I'm also responsible for assisting families following a funeral service with government application forms, notifications to various government agencies, as well as to go through a checklist of items of some of the things that the family may be responsible for in regards to settling the deceased estate. This is what is known as our extended family care program. Well, you're all part of a historical moment today. As Sarah had mentioned, this is our first webinar. Please make sure that at the end of the webinar, if there are any topics that you would like to see in the future, please let us know. We'll consider everything. We're here to provide you with information, everything that you want and need to know. Our program today will include information regarding the need and the importance, and also the ease of designing your farewell, pre-planning your funeral services. Following our discussion, Sarah, the celebrant, will share with you a few ideas on how to make each funeral unique and meaningful for those left behind. I'm so happy to see all of you today. Let's face it, a lot of people don't like talking about death and funerals, and much less pre-plan something for themselves or a loved one. But I can say today that you've taken the very first step of pre-arranging by just being here today. Some people are so scared to talk about pre-arranging, and I can tell you that for a fact. I've been to a few family gatherings where when people see me, they want to try to avoid me because they don't want the conversation to lead to funerals. But I have to say, people are so curious. It normally always does head toward that direction. But seriously, it happens so often, the sudden death of a loved one. It's an experience filled with anxiety and so much emotion. Emotions and grief make it difficult to, have to decide upon important funeral selections and services at that time. It doesn't have to be that way. We see some people that, will say, oh, I hope I did everything right for mom. And some of these people will live with that doubt and grief for a long time, even following a funeral service. We sometimes hear, oh, I don't know what mom's wishes were. They want to honor their wishes, but they just don't know what they were. And the unexpected and immediate financial burden is so overwhelming. But it doesn't have to be that way. Many people don't even understand what goes into funeral planning or the benefits of having everything pre-arranged. Pre-planning your funeral will let your family know how you want to be remembered. It will relieve your family of emotional and financial burden while they are grieving. But most importantly for you, it's going to give you the comfort to know that everything will be done exactly the way that you want it. The most celebrated pre-arrangement was did anyone watch the funeral services of the late Prince Philip? Apparently, that's great, I see a few people. Apparently, he was known to always do his own thing. He took care of a lot of things ahead of time. He was recorded as saying, "No Bentley frippery needed for this last carry, thank you. We'll want something more rough and ready." And he also stated that heading down to his next deployment will be done in fine military style. So, since 2003, he worked on that green Range Rover that carried his casket on the day of the funeral services. His services were filled with personal touches, his favorite music, even the music that he specially commissioned. We were witness to a celebration of such an extraordinary life. May he rest in peace. We hear so many reasons why people hesitate to plan ahead. Somebody will tell me, oh, why should I pay for something ahead of time? I'll just leave the money in the bank and my family will take care of it. But you have the opportunity to plan ahead today. Just like so many other things, the cost of groceries, the cost of gas, to purchase a home, to purchase a car, the prices go up all the time. And so do the prices of funeral services. I don't know if you know, but a funeral service will double in price every 10 years. So if you were to have come to the funeral home and made your pre-arrangements in, say, 2010 and paid $6,000 for that service. If you were to come today and pre-arrange the exact same service, more than likely it will cost you $12,000. So my question to you is, would you not want to, if you knew you had to buy something, would you not want to buy it when it's least expensive? You have the opportunity to take care of it now at today's pricing when it's less expensive. And by prepaying, you will lock in those prices and guarantee the costs. It's so important today to be a wise consumer. You've worked so hard for your money, you have to put it to its best use. When some say they cannot afford it right now, I always tell them there is no cost or obligation to purchase anything today. There are so many things that you can do and decide upon ahead of time without costing a cent. You know, some people say, oh, my kids are going to take care of it. Of course they're going to take care of it. But wouldn't it be easier for them to just have to be responsible to call the funeral home, knowing that everything is taken care of? Of course it would. You know, some people say, my lawyer's going to take care of everything. You know, when you make your pre-arrangement, your wishes are known ahead of time. And typically a lawyer does not get involved until after the services are completed. And some say, we haven't decided, you know, what we want right now. I'm not surprised. I wouldn't expect anyone to make a decision until they had all of the facts. We can provide you with information to make you aware of all of your options ahead of time. And then the classic reason somebody doesn't want to prearrange is because they're not going to die. We hear that sometimes. Unfortunately, that's not how it really works. For some things in life, there is no schedule. You know, when I first started at Cardinals, you know, I sat down with my mother and father, and you know, I explained the benefits of pre-arrangements. You know, the benefit of prepaying and taking care of everything ahead of time, so it's easier for myself and my sister. You know, my mother thought it was a great idea. She saw the benefit. She saw it and believed in it. My father didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to hear any stories that I had to tell. He just wasn't interested at the time. Well, you know, unfortunately, my mother passed away 11 years ago. But, you know, once the services were complete, once everything was, you know, settled and taken care of, you know, about 6 months after the services, you know, my father came up and said, you know, it was a lot easier. And, you know, at that point, he was ready to prearrange. So I guess for some people, it just takes a little bit longer for them to see the benefits. So what good does a prearrangement do? You know, during a prearrangement, husband and wife, father and daughter, mother and son, they have the opportunity to meet with a funeral professional, sit in a relaxed atmosphere, ask questions, obtain, you know, information without any duress. And that's what a prearrangement does. Another scenario today is you've selected the perfect nursing home for your mother or your father or retirement residence. But, you know, upon admission, the facility will almost always ask if there's a prearrangement in place. Because if there is a prearrangement in place at the time that the services are required, and once we are given authorization, we will pick up your loved one and bring them into our care as soon as possible. There would be no deciding upon funeral homes to use or services, because everything has been decided upon. And that's what a pre-arrangement does. If there's any kind of disagreement within the family, when a pre-arrangement is in place, you know, those conflicts are eliminated. Those difficult family discussions are minimized because everything has been taken care of ahead of time. That's what a pre-arrangement does. Having a pre-arrangement in place will eliminate those very difficult questions. What would mom want? Or the even harder question, how am I going to pay for this? That's what a prearrangement does. You know, a few years ago at the funeral home, as a funeral service was leaving the chapel, you know, a few moments later, the son of the deceased came in, and he asked if I was the person that helped his father make his prearrangements. And I said, yes, I was. And he said, you know, when my father came home and told me that he made his prearrangements, I was so mad. I was mad because I always told him, you know what? Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. When the time comes, I'll take care of everything for you. But no, he never listened. So he went and he made his prearrangements himself. But you know what? Today, I'm so glad that he made those prearrangements ahead of time, because today I can spend the time with my family and remember what a great father he was. And that's what a prearrangement does. You know, to do your prearrangement, it takes 3 simple steps: exploring your options, recording your wishes, and considering your payment options. So step number 1, you know, have you ever attended a funeral service and on the way home, driving, just, you know, thinking to yourself, oh, I would have done that differently, or why did they select those type of services, or, you know, something like, oh, that's just not for me. Well, you know, now is your chance to consider all of your options and decide what is right for you. Would you prefer a cremation? Would you prefer a burial? Would you prefer visitation? Would you prefer a formal service before the burial, or a celebration of life before or after the cremation? What type of preparation would you prefer? An embalming service or basic preparation? These are just some of the questions that you have to answer. Also, this is the time for you to ask yourself, how do I want to be remembered? How do I want my family and friends to remember my life story? How do I plan for my services so that they reflect my personality and my interests? And how can I do all of this while staying within my budget? We can help. At this moment, you have so many options. We can help you make important decisions regarding all aspects of your services. We will answer your questions, provide you with options, and together we will ensure that your funeral is a unique reflection of your life. Step number 2 is recording your wishes. Once you've considered all of your options and are ready to make your choices that are right for you and your family, we will meet either in person or virtually now. We'll record your funeral requests. And also at this time, we also take the opportunity to record as many of your personal vital statistics as possible. Because at the time of death, without a prearrangement, it's your family or your executor that will be responsible for providing all of your personal information to the funeral home in order for us to register the death with the province. Information such as name, address, date of birth, social insurance number, the name on your social insurance number, your occupation, your legal marital status, your father's name, your father's place of birth, your mother's name, your mother's maiden name, your mother's place of birth. Cemetery information, if it's applicable. We need information about your executor, as well as your next of kin. And this is just to name a few. With a prearrangement in place held within the funeral home, much of this information is recorded ahead of time. Another key point to think about, you have to consider who will be the person that will be taking care of your final arrangements, and how can you make it easier for them to handle. Once your prearrangements are in place and at the funeral home, please discuss them with your family and ensure them and let them know that everything will be taken care of later without any worries. have the information and the paperwork readily available for their use. Because without a pre-arrangement in place, it's your family that's going to be gathering this information. Will they have to hunt for this information? Will they know where to look for it? Are you an organized record keeper? Again, I stress, because this time can be so overwhelming for your loved ones, the more that you can do ahead of time, the easier it will be. And step number 3 is considering your payment options. While there is no payment required for a pre-arrangement, it is important to consider making a financial commitment. Again, just for the record, a payment is not required to have a pre-arrangement in place with the funeral home. Once you've determined your choice of services and merchandise, a quotation will be prepared, and along with the information that you have provided to us, a file will be started. Well, at the time that the services are required, the funeral director will recalculate the amount on the quotation, and this is the amount that your family, your executor, will be responsible for paying. This is what is known as an unfunded pre-arrangement. We have pre-arrangement options, so many to suit your needs and your budget. Payment can be made all at once. You can enter into a scheduled time payment plan, or you can pay at your convenience. As you can see, you have a few options ahead of time. At the time that the services are required, you don't have as many options. When a payment option has been selected, something that is comfortable for you, and it's all about being comfortable, this is what happens. A contract with the funeral home is drawn up, and the payment is made towards the contract. Now, by law, we cannot keep prearranged funds in our Cardinal Funeral Home account. So what we do is we invest your funds either into a trust account, which is held in your name, or into an annuity, which is also held in your name. These funds are held until the time that the services are required, or until the time that we have written authorization from you to withdraw. Now, at the time that the services are required, what will happen? The funeral director will take everything that was selected and paid for on your contract and prices it at that day's rate. At that point, we withdraw the funds either from the trust account or the annuity, and we place those funds and we put them towards the new cost of the services. Now, say, for example, there is more money in your account than the new cost of the services. The excess funds are returned either to your estate or to your beneficiary. Now, on the other hand, when the funds are put towards the new cost of the services, if there is not enough money in that account to cover the new cost, the funeral home covers the balance. And this is your guarantee. So just so that you know, the interest growth goes to offset the increase in price of the funeral service. Your pre-arrangement is portable and protected, meaning that if you move and decide to use another funeral home, the funds within your pre-arrangement can be transferred. All pre-arrangement contracts held within a licensed funeral establishment are governed by provincial regulations and strictly monitored. And this is for your protection only. If your pre-arrangement is funded within a trust account, your funds are protected by CDIC, Canadian Deposit Insurance Corporation. If your funds are held within an annuity, your funds are protected by Assurus. Assurus is an organization within the Canadian federal regulation. If anyone has any more questions about funding or any of the steps of pre-arranging, please don't hesitate to call me. In conclusion, as part of life planning, we plan for our futures. We take measures to protect ourselves and our families from hardships and inconveniences. We plan for our golden years. We see the importance of having a will and a power of attorney, and we ensure that our health coverage is in order. But the plans are not truly complete until a pre-arrangement has been made. We believe funeral pre-arranging is an important part of estate planning. It is our goal at Cardinals to provide our families with attentive and caring services that they expect and deserve, as well as the best pre-arrangement plans possible. People have so many questions about funerals and pre-planning. Please know that you can always visit the funeral home. Come to ask questions, get information at no obligation at all. Because you know what they say, the funeral home really is a nice place to visit if you don't have to be there. It's been my pleasure speaking with you today, and please do not hesitate to call or come by. Now I'm going to hand it back to Sarah now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Catherine, for that really informative and helpful presentation. Really appreciate that. So one of the questions that Catherine asked was the question around how do you want to be remembered? And she talked a lot about planning the various aspects of your end of life affairs. I'm here to share a little bit about the specifics around the ceremony that happens, whether that be a funeral, a memorial, a graveside service, a celebration of life. Many of you here on the call today perhaps are part of a faith community, and that's an important part of who you are, and you have a faith leader who will be leading your service at the time. But there are, we know, a growing number of people who the traditional religious service is not necessarily what is fitting for them. And unfortunately, I hear it all the time when people hear what I do for a living. They say, oh, I'm going to be telling my kids don't do anything because we know we don't want a church service necessarily, or we're not connected with a clergy person. And so that's where I come in as a celebrant. What is a celebrant? Let me just ask those of you who are on the call, hit that raise hand button if you have been to a celebrant service or perhaps heard about what a celebrant is. So as a celebrant, I wear a number of different hats depending on what the needs of the family are. There are times where families will let me know that none of them want to get up there and speak. They are concerned that they're not going to be able to get through their speeches. And so I become the storyteller for them, and I gather the stories and memories and the family meetings that we share, and I write a customized eulogy for their loved one. Other times families will say, no, Sarah, we have a couple of people that we know we want to speak, but would you wear the MC hat with some welcome and opening remarks, some personal reflections, perhaps the bio pieces that they want me to cover of, mom was born here and went to school there, and this is how she met dad. And then they get up and speak personally before I close off the ceremony with some closing reflections. Always going to be personal, but sometimes they do just want more of the MC hat there. We talk in the family meeting, we talk a lot about all of the different personalizing options in terms of music, poetry readings, or other types of readings. We talk about themes. I mean, the themes are really endless in terms of how we can weave different themes that, for example, the pilot that we talk about, where we talk about the flight of his life, or ceremonies, personalized ceremonies. For the mom, I'll never forget that family told me that she just loved Pepsi. And so we did a Pepsi ceremony, and the immediate family members came up at the beginning, just after my opening remarks, and cheers to mom with Pepsi. The guitar player who the family liked my idea of bringing everybody having guitar picks. that instead of placing flowers on the casket at the burial, during the graveside service, we placed guitar picks on the casket as their final way of paying tribute while his favorite ACD song was playing in the background. The sky is the limit. The possibilities truly are endless. And these are just a couple of options that you have. Some people like to say to me, Sarah, oh, so the celebrant is the secular option. You're the non-religious option. And to that, I always say, you know what? No, sometimes we are simply the what do you need option. I'm not here to push any agenda whatsoever, but there are times where families want me to wear the hat of the minister or the faith leader, where perhaps they didn't go to church or they didn't have connections, but that was their spirituality was still an important part of who they were. It's gonna bring comfort to some of the family members who have been left behind. And so I'm more than comfortable with incorporating prayers, scripture readings, liturgy, or other spiritual elements when that is something that they want me to do. So the options are endless, and I do want to let you all know that our next webinar that's going to be coming up in June, I'm going to be talking a lot more in detail about why you would want to use potentially a celebrant, options for creative memorials and celebrations of life. This is just wanted to give you a little bit of a taste of what we're going to go into more detail for our next webinar in June. Details to come for that as well. But before I get into a little bit of the closing, I did just want to turn it back over to Catherine. A couple of you have submitted questions prior to when you were registering. You asked some great questions that we wanted to make sure. This is now your time. If you do have another question that we have not yet answered in our presentation, to hit that Q&A button. And if we have time, we'll do our best to answer any questions that you have right now. So take it away, Catherine.
Okay, so we've had a few questions regarding the costs and the added costs at the time of death. How much does a funeral cost? So, okay, so first of all, we'll just touch upon how much a funeral actually costs. It's hard to say. Sorry. Every funeral is different. The cost is determined by the services that you select and as well as the merchandise that is selected. It can be as simple or as elaborate as you may wish, and it's totally up to the individual. But you can always call me together, even over the phone or via email. We can discuss your wishes. I can prepare a quotation for you, and you can take that and discuss that with your family. And there's absolutely no obligation. So this way you'll know. I could say a funeral costs $8,000, but that may not cover what you're thinking of, the type of services you're wanting to look at. So you can always call me, get a personalized quotation at no obligation. Also, to speak about what is paid for within a prearranged contract. Everything that we place on a contract are items that we can guarantee 100%. You can select and pay for your services, your merchandise, the casket, things like church fees, clergy fees, newspaper notices. That's a good example. These are things that we cannot guarantee. When you look into the Toronto Star on a Saturday and you see an obituary for 15 lines long with a colored photo, that's going to cost you anywhere around $500. Now, I cannot take that $500 from you ahead of time on a prearranged contract, because let's say in 10, 15 years, there is no more Toronto Star. So that's why we can only guarantee, we can only put what is on a contract, what we can guarantee. What happens at the time of death? So whether you have a prearrangement in place or not, you would call us. You would provide us authorization to pick up your loved one and bring them into our care. And then at that point, what we will do is we will set up an appointment with you, either the next day or the day after, whatever's convenient for you. And at that time, all of the final arrangements will be taken care of. Another question that was submitted was regarding the benefits that the government provides. The government provides a CPP death benefit and a CPP survivor's pension. For your family to be eligible to receive these benefits, the deceased would have had to have worked in Canada for at least 10 years and contributed to the CPP program. It takes about 2 months to receive the benefit from the government. It's not an automatic payment, and you cannot apply for it before the person has passed away. But it's our responsibility to help you with those application forms, so you don't have to worry about that. We'll take care of that for you. There was also another question on what happens if I die while I'm on vacation? That's a great question, because you want to go away, and so does everybody else after this year. We offer a travel plan. What that travel plan covers, you pay a one-time fee. What the travel plan covers is all of the costs and the logistics if death were to happen over 100 kilometers away from your home address. Say you went to the States, even if you went to Buffalo, that's over 100 kilometers away. If you have the travel plan, all you would have to do is call you would receive a card and there's a phone number to call. You would call that number, and what the company does is they will automatically find the closest funeral home to your location. They will take care of everything, all of the logistics to get your loved one home. And just think of the thousands of dollars you're going to save. And it's so overwhelming. Say you're in another country, there's the language barrier, the customs barrier. This can all be taken care of very, very easily for you. If you wanted more information about the travel plan, please just give me a call. That's about it for questions that I have, Sarah.
Okay, great. I do see that there are a couple of you who have raised your hand, and I'm not sure if you're trying to indicate that you also have a question. If you did have a question, we do have a couple more minutes. You could type it in the Q&A button. Type it in right there really quickly. While you may or may not be doing that, I was going to also share with you, I actually got a phone call the other day from a gentleman who is pre-arranging his funeral. He is, there's no health issues. Usually a lot of times if people come to me before they've passed away, then they've had some kind of diagnosis or something, but he is just wanting to get everything in place, and also wants to even go as far as choosing music and choosing poetry. Most people, I would say, though, are not in this boat. And you may be hearing a little bit of what I was sharing as a celebrant and what I do and thinking, gosh, I don't know if I want to think about all of those things. That's more than okay, too. You may be like a woman who came up to me, this is earlier on in my career when I just had started my celebrant business, and it was a neighbor of the deceased who she said to me, when she came up to me, she said, Sarah, can I grab your business card? I need to go back to my pre-planner and tell her to put it in my file and let her know that I've changed my mind. I do want a funeral because I didn't realize that celebrants existed. I didn't know I could have such a personal time of farewell for my family like that. And so that could be as simple as what you do, is that you just let your pre-arranger know that you're interested in having a celebrant-led service. You don't have to be like this gentleman who I spoke with last week who wants to plan out the whole order of service and everything before it's his time. All right, so it looks like we don't have any other questions at this time. The only thing left to do is to give away the Shoppers Drug Mart gift card. So, Kathy, can I get a drum roll, please? The lucky winner is Carol Turbrug.
Yeah.
I hope that I have said, I hope I've said your name correctly, but Carol, congratulations. You are our winner of the Shoppers Drug Mart gift card. If you could please send me an email and let me know where to send that, I'll get that off to you. To all of you, thank you so much for your time here today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to tune in with us. We hope that you are walking away with some helpful nuggets. When I end this webinar, there should be a survey that pops up on your screen. As well, you'll find the survey in your email, if that works for you better, where we hope that you can give us some feedback about how you enjoyed this, ideas that you have for future webinar topics. We will, like I say, have a recording of this webinar up on our website, cardinalfuneralhomes.com, as well as our Facebook page. If you don't already follow us there, Cardinal Funeral Homes on Facebook, give us a like and see all of the things that are coming up in terms of our webinars and hopefully seminars too, in person. Can you imagine one day we'll be able to be together physically again?
That's right. That would be great.
Right. So thank you, Catherine, and thank you all. Take care, and we hope to talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Stay safe. Stay safe.